the biggest personal lesson I've learned from this is you just have to start. I see it with my clients. I see it with myself sometimes. It's like that perfectionist. Like I have to know exactly what this looks like. And even in building a company, we're constantly evolving and figuring out how we want to move in a different direction and adapt. If we don't take the step to learn to put ourselves out there, we will never get the answers. As Eileen says, live the question and answers will show up. Welcome back to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Basilico, and we are here to celebrate a year on this podcast. And I've got Josi June here to have a little conversation of what we learned,
Hi.
the highlights of the year, and let me just refresh why I chose to do this podcast and why I'm even more passionate than I was at the start is because we all have a journey to share and we all have a journey to learn from so we can live into our own essence, uniqueness, to leave our bold imprint for future generations. And that is my mission, to help people do just that through my coaching, through this podcast. And so I wanted to share some of my highlights, but I just want to share. Josie and I we were talking about like what we had so many amazing guests, right, Josie?
Mm-hmm.
We had guests from 6 different countries, ages 10 to, what was the oldest of the guests we had?
82.
82. And just all walks of life, from athletes to teachers to mentors to scientists. And I just want to start with this quote from my second guest, Eileen Rosenberg. It goes like this: "You only have one life. It's a gift. You don't waste it. I've raised my children by telling them, live the question and the answer will show up." I think it's a beautiful message, because sometimes we don't know, we don't have the answers. We know there's something more, and we have to ask the question for that answer to come. And even last night, Josie was at a workshop, a journal workshop with us, and there was some struggle of asking simple questions because some people came with wanting a certain answer. And I think our society sometimes teaches us that we've got to find the answer, and then we can move forward. What did you learn from our workshop last night? Just kind of about this message that Eileen shared with us.
Well, one thing before I say that,
Go ahead.
just letting you know, it's Eileen Rosenthal.
Oh, sorry, Rosenthal. Yes, sorry, Rosenthal. Thank you for correcting.
And then, one thing I learned from the workshop yesterday was I learned that it's okay to open up to people even if you don't know them. Because I felt like, I don't know, a lot of the people there knew they were in like a safe space where they could talk about whatever was on their mind and write down what was ever on their mind. So.
And some people didn't feel as safe.
Yeah. But
and you think it's necessary to have a safe space to speak.
Yeah.
Which leads us to why this podcast is important, is because we ask people that don't normally, maybe there's a few that go on a podcast, but most of my guests do amazing things in their community and their families, in the world, yet aren't recognized and are very humble, but have walked the harder path. And Eileen is no different. And what I learned, one of the main things I wanted to share today is, number one, we all have a journey, And it's really, I really in this year found that going back into our journey and learning from the times that it's great that we succeed, but the times that we struggled and how we got through those moments and how um, you you embrace the struggle and how you chose to stand for something even though everybody else was saying something else. And what I learned is by sharing people's journeys on this podcast is my through the interviews that we had, my guests actually came out with a spark by kind of going back in their lives and sharing those aha moments, those the hard moments that took them in a certain direction. And I could see it in their face when they left. Like it wasn't just for you as the listener. It actually brought a ignited a light inside of them to live even more intently about their about the way they want to show up in the world. And it's funny because they are my guests and we're here for you as the listeners, but that is what I do as a coach. I literally help you connect to the uniqueness, the boldness when it's hard and you don't know what path to take. I will stir the pot so that you can find those answers. And yeah, I what do you think about what I'm saying right now? Like, did you see, because you watched a few guests and you were a guest,
Yeah.
what did you see with the people that were sharing their story?
Like, what do you mean? What did I see?
Like, what did you see in them when they were
Oh,
sharing the story?
I saw them like what I said before during the workshop. I saw them open up more to people. Like I was telling you before, there were a lot of people that went on the podcast that I knew, and that I knew some I knew really well, and I thought I knew a lot of things about them. And then when I listened back to the podcast, there was a lot of things that I never expected them to say
Or you didn't
about
know.
themselves that
Yeah, or
I
you
didn't
didn't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even that is a realization for me is to be curious about people and learning how they think gives you an idea of why they're doing what they're doing or they're behaving the way they do.
Yeah.
And actually having a really cool feeling towards that person because you hear their journey.
Yeah.
And I love what you just said about you knew a lot of people really well, but you never knew their story.
Yeah.
Who comes to mind when you think like, wow, I didn't know they did that?
I mean, one, probably Elizabeth,
Mm-hmm.
my director. I mean, I knew her, and but I didn't know that she did all these things, like she was a dancer and stuff like that. And I don't know. And there was Alice, my piano teacher, who I didn't know she was very smart, and she had a PhD and stuff like that.
In musicology, and she went to Princeton and studied, had her doctorate degree, and went on a limb to start her own music school in Tahoe. Just her journey is cool. How she went against the typical path for her studies. Anybody else? Can you read that quote that you pulled up for
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, yeah.
So Elizabeth said, "Don't compare yourself to other people. Everybody has their own journey and a way of getting from point A to point B. I wasn't the perfect dancer, but I had the passion. I couldn't be perfect, so I had to put my passion into my performance."
Yeah, and I think she sends a great message because it's so easy in our society, even in school, to compare yourself. Like, I was just writing about this. I'll give you a story about my journey that I've never shared. I literally just wrote about this either this morning or last night. A memory of me being in a play, and I've told you about this. We were on Wizard of Oz, and my part was what?
She was a window.
I was a window. And I didn't realize until last night of how that really affected how I thought of myself. Because here I had my best friend who was playing Dorothy, and she was vibrant and walking around the stage and did amazing and had all these lines. And here I was, just I wrote this, dressed in black, and just had this string around my neck with a window, and I was just mute. And I thought, I don't want to ever be on. I think I really didn't like the stage because I really wasn't able, given the opportunity to express myself. And so it just shut me off and made me feel not capable and made me feel I'm not good enough. And right there, I compared myself instead of saying, you know what? If I want to be on stage, what do I have to do? If I want to speak up, what do I have to do? Instead, I clammed up.
Yeah.
And it really affected me, even on the sports field, because I wasn't my whole person off the field.
Yeah.
I was very shy. And I think, what do you think when you're in school, the comparing yourself? Because even, she explained she wasn't the type of person that could do the ballerina, and she just had to follow her own lane, Elizabeth. But
Mm-hmm.
what do you experience in your school when it comes to comparing yourself, like Elizabeth shared?
I think maybe in sports at school. I mean, like I do sports and I'm kind of good at sports, but I'm not as good as some other people on my team. But I think thinking about that while I'm practicing or in games, like for example, volleyball. When I was in volleyball, a lot of the older players and some of my friends were really good, and I wasn't getting as good as they were. So I thought like, oh, I'm never going to get good at volleyball. But after a while, I started thinking, oh, maybe if I practice and I practice and practice and I got better.
Yeah, I think it's important to not compare and
Yeah.
just choose. Like, if I want to do that, I'm going to find a way. So very cool what Elizabeth shared, and her journey was cool too. What else, when it comes to this year's podcast, and you listen to so many, did you notice a theme that went on with all the guests?
Um,
And we didn't talk about this. I have in my mind what I know the two themes I think of, but like I'm putting Josie on the spot here. But what are some of the themes when the Solstigators that we interviewed that walk the harder path, that had to find their own way, even if they didn't fit in with the normal
yeah.
way? What did you hear from their interviews?
I think I mean it was a lot about sharing your story and like your journey to where you got.
Yeah, but how did they have to? How
I
did they get there? How did they get there? Did it take
I
like what the
had
theme
the
to me
hard
is
work.
hard work for sure, belief in self, and the other thing is courage. Like they had to have courage to open a company. To Eileen, like, had really, her parents weren't around, and she had the courage to go to New York City and teach, and she didn't really have a support. Um, the athletes, like Ingrid, right? What
Mm-hmm.
did you learn from Ingrid? Ingrid's
Um,
a U.S. Doubles player, and she's been playing since the age of 7, and we've known her since 17, and she's now 25, and she's top 39th in the world in doubles. And what did you learn from her and her We've interviewed her twice, so what did you learn
Um,
from her?
I learned that she very, very hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she kind of reminds me. Oh, this kind of has to do with something that I learned in school the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in English we were learning about like hard work and like how much work you put into and how it makes your brain stronger. But we watched this video of Stephen Curry, the basketball player, and it said he like the top 20 people in high school who were like the best basketball players in high school at the time. They got qualified to be in this camp with Kobe Bryant, and he was the least recognized player when he joined the camp at the beginning, and because he wasn't as good as the other players. So he kept working and working, and he would shoot, I forget how many, but he would shoot so many baskets before practice even started. And all the other players would be in their flip flops and their headphones, and he would be out there just shooting baskets and shooting baskets. And he would be in a full sweat before actual practice even started. And before he left every practice of the camp, he would make sure he swished 5 free throws in a row, and he wouldn't leave until he did. And that made him one of the best shooters. And so I think that had to do with hard working.
So hardworking, like that. That's an
Yeah.
example that which you noticed in Ingrid, which
Yeah.
I've noticed in most of our guests.
Mhm.
Guests that they go beyond what's expected.
Yeah.
And if you think of Kobe Bryant, when you hear like what did we listen to? How he used to with his daughter. What time would they get up?
Oh, like 4 a.m.
4 a.m. and go to the gym together.
Mhm.
So Josie has this. We're having difficulty getting up these days, but not me, but she. And but Josie knows that in order to be the best singer, to learn the guitar, it takes doing more. What was something we talked about doing more if we did 365 days, and if we put in how many minutes a day?
Oh yeah.
Remember
It was 365 days and 18 minutes of something that you really wanted to work on. You would do 18 minutes every single day. So that would be how many hours?
if you do the math, I don't have it
I
on
don't
me,
know.
but
It was a lot
but
of time.
you would beat 95% of the population
Yeah.
because most people don't put in the work.
Mhm.
And so and right now we're working, Josie is working on not just taking lessons with the thing that she loves to do, the skill that she loves, but
Yeah.
what?
But practicing like
After and
Like-
owning it.
like how I said, like Stephen Curry, he would practice before practice and after practice, and any days he didn't have practice.
Yeah. So when I mean, it just reminds me when I played golf in my 30s, I could take a lesson. I think, oh, I got it. But I had to, if some instructor, like maybe I was at the Harmon School in Vegas and I was working with the guys, and then Butch happened to come by, or Claude Harmon, and they would give me one tip and I could do it in front of them. And then when they were gone or I was on the course, I couldn't translate it. And you have to do the work, even if you have to do the work and own it. And if you don't own it, you've got to go back, have someone look from other eyes that you can't. Even me right now, I'm going to take lessons from my golf if I want to get back into it. I need someone. I know what I want to do, but I need someone else to see what I can't see, my blind spots. Same as life coaching or the coaching work that I do. If I'm coaching someone, sometimes you can't see what you can't see. And even I have my own coach. There's things that I'm working on personally, my old thinking of that blocks me from moving into the next level of what I want to do in my business as a mother. And it's like unpeeling the onion of our subconscious beliefs and values that we've adopted that don't serve us anymore. The other thing I would say about the people that we interviewed this year on Journey to June, I think they really know themselves. They're not afraid to be different. And I don't know how much they talk about that in school. Do you think they express that in school, or what's your opinion?
I mean, some teachers do and some teachers don't.
And how do you embrace your uniqueness? Like, how do you personally embrace, do you know that you're different than some of your friends?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. In what ways?
I mean, like, even if somebody tries to be exactly like this person, there's always that one thing that still stands out about them. Even if they change their whole personality and looks, you just know, like, there's that one thing. But, like, everybody's different no matter how hard you try to change yourself. But, I think what the one thing that makes me stand out more than my friends, I think, is maybe like, I mean, I always say this like all the time, but not really caring what people think. Like, actually not caring what people think.
That's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
And lastly, before I just wanted to tap in about this year. This is a big year because this has been a podcast that I wanted to create for the last 5 years. I've started it 2 different times during COVID. Um, the biggest personal lesson I've learned from this is you just have to take a step. You just have to start. And I see it with my clients. I see it with myself sometimes. It's like that perfectionist. Like I have to know exactly what this looks like. And even in building a company, we're constantly evolving and figuring out how we want to move in a different direction and adapt. And if we don't take the step to learn to put ourselves out there, we will never get the answers. As Eileen says, live the question and answers will show up. So I started to live the question of like, okay, what does the podcast look like? And I just put it out there. And as I started to ask people to come on, I started to see the direction I wanted to build this podcast towards. And it is all about the journey. Um, you haven't been part of our retreat, but we do a retreat quarterly, 3 times a year. And it's all about taking a pause and going back in your journey and learning from it and see where you want to go forward in your journey and creating a real declaration of who you choose to be going forward.
Yeah.
And in that declaration, it could be, I want to be the best solstigator, the best coach around. I want to be the best podcaster. In that, I don't have all the answers. I don't have the answers of how to be the best podcaster out there yet. But I am going to take the steps to see how to get there, and with the intent of putting everything I have and being aware of what my intuition is telling me to walk towards. And that is how we get the answers, as Eileen says. And that is what I hold in our retreats. We ask people to dream big. We ask people to really shut off like the normal way of thinking, to think beyond, like almost like a child, almost like you. What did you? I'm just going to bring this up about yesterday, if you don't mind. We wrote about a letter in our journal work, dear so and so. We just had to pick what popped up in our heads, and I wrote about my mom, but Josie wrote about to somebody that she really admires, that has put an imprint in her heart and the things she loves. Do you want to share that?
I mean, like,
The tote.
I don't have the.
No,
No,
you don't have to. You
but-
don't have to. We'll maybe share the note, but like, what drew you to write about her? And tell them who it was that you decided to
I
draw.
wrote about Taylor Swift because I've always loved her since I was little. I don't know, I feel like she's a very nice person, and I don't like her just because of her amazing singing voice, but I think she's a kind person to anyone, and yeah. And she has a lot of energy, and I don't know, she's a very good role model, I think. So I wrote a letter to her because she was the first person that popped up into my mind.
And when Josie read the letter to the other participants in our journal. You didn't read it? Oh,
No,
you read it to
I
me
read
last
it to
night.
you.
Yes, you read it to me last night. But she shared with the participants in our workshop, and I could see the passion in your eyes by sharing. It was a big, your dream is big at 11. And I take your dream and any client's dreams or people that I meet that have big dreams, from my podcast to the people I work with to the people I love to you. We are here to live. We have a mission. And in order to fulfill and understand who we are and why we're here, we have to walk towards that, to learn, to be all that we can be, to see our potential. And the tears were coming out of her eyes a little bit because there was emotion about sharing about Taylor Swift. And of course, me, the leader of the workshop, started
By the
tearing.
way, I wasn't crying.
You
at
weren't
all.
crying, but there was emotion. And I was like so proud that she has the courage to speak about her dreams, because I don't think always it's accepted to have big dreams. Sometimes it's to play small, to fit in. And at Live Your June, we work with people with ambition that dream big and really take ownership for who they are. And we're not dealing with the dabblers in life. We're really dealing with people like yourself, like some of your friends that come on the podcast, like Eileen, who's 82. Like, there's even people that have accomplished something. They're always looking for something more and always looking to expand who they are and put their service out on the line to make the world a better place. What pops in my mind is Betsy King. I mean, Hall of Famer, 32 tournaments on the LPGA, and she could easily just hang back and, relax. And all she does is give back and serve with something she feels is passionate about. And she really believes in it from her heart. It's not easy work. I mean, she's older now and she travels a lot and she goes to Africa, and she puts, she works as hard as she did when she was on the golf course. So that is our passion around those that are willing to dream big and be ambitious. And if something's calling to you, by listening to this podcast today or any day, you have a journey. You have a uniqueness. You have something to share with the world, big or small. But it takes courage to speak it. And sometimes we're not in community or in a space or with people that still love us, that allow us to be vulnerable, to think big. So my invitation to you is, if you are listening to this, if you're ambitious, if you want more, if you feel that something's missing inside of you, reach out to us at liveyourjune.com, Wendy at liveyourjune.com, email me, find us on Instagram, listen to our podcast. We all have a mission. We all have an imprint to leave on this world. And there's no guarantees for tomorrow. We have to start today and dig into what that is. And I would be honored to hold space for anyone with a big, big dream, ambition, and, whether you're 11, whether you're in your 20s like Ingrid, whether you're like Betsy King, it doesn't matter. We're always evolving into the next version of who we're meant to be, who we're born to be. So I welcome you to reach out. I invite you to find out more about our retreats and anything else to share about our first year. Anything you think we should do differently next year?
No.
You like what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do you want to come on next year a little bit?
Sure.
Cool. Because guess what Josie's just signed up for?
What?
You signed up for a live mic, or
Oh, yeah.
what did you? She just started guitar, and
I'm doing a live mic.
she's signing up for with her guitar teacher to sing and maybe play guitar or piano. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you for listening. I appreciate your support through the year. I can't do my work without you showing up and listening and asking questions and being curious about yourself and others' imprints. We have a mission. We are on a movement. So join us for the next year at Journey to June. Thanks so much.